She swore she loved me, but I just found out she's secretly been stealing from our joint account. $250, zero gone. And now she's suing me for half our house worth over $600, $0, all while claiming I'm the one betraying her. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. But here I am, sitting in my living room, trying to process how everything fell apart in just a few weeks. You probably think I'm about to tell you some cliché story of a cheating wife, but trust me, it's worse than that. It's like a bad movie that keeps throwing surprises at you, each more shocking than the last. Her name was Emily. We met in college, and I honestly thought we had something real. She was beautiful, confident, a bit bitchy sometimes, but I liked that about her. She had this fiery attitude that kept me on my toes. We got married 5 years ago, bought a house together, and everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. At first, I noticed little things. She'd be on her phone more than usual, hiding texts, deleting messages like her life depended on it. I'd find receipts for late-night dinners or hotel stays she'd never admit to. She'd swear she was working late or out with friends, but her stories didn't add up. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I was paranoid. Then came the day I decided to check our joint bank account. I'd always been the cautious type, and something told me to peek. I logged in, expecting to see some regular expenses, but what I saw made my stomach drop. Over the past year, Emily had siphoned off $250, $0. That's $250,000 gone without my knowledge. She'd been transferring money into accounts I didn't even know existed, some overseas, some in her name alone. I couldn't believe it. Where was all that money going? Why was she hiding it? That's when I started piecing things together. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the strange behavior. I found her phone records, calls to a number I didn't recognize, always late at night. When I confronted her, she spun some bullshit about being stressed, needing a break, or some emotional affair with a coworker. But I knew better. I'd seen her with that guy Mark a few times, always close, always whispering, always avoiding my gaze when I looked their way. And then came the real shocker. She was planning to sue me for half of our house, claiming I'd betrayed her. She's claiming I cheated first, that I'm the one with secrets, that I've been unfaithful. Meanwhile, she's out there screwing around and stealing our savings. It's like the universe decided to slap me in the face with one punch after another. I remember the night I found out everything. I was home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to check the bank statements again just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. That's when I saw the transactions, large transfers, suspicious deposits, and then, buried deep in the folder, a text message from her to Mark saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That was the moment I knew. I wasn't imagining things. My wife was cheating on me with her coworker, and she had been stealing from us the whole time. I didn't sleep that night. I sat there staring at the phone, trying to process how the woman I loved could do this to me. All those promises, all those nights she swore she loved me, was any of it real? Or was I just some fool who got played? The next morning I confronted her. I didn't even hold back. I told her I knew everything, the affair, the stolen money, the lies. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer. She looked at me like I was the crazy one, denying everything, claiming I was paranoid, that I was projecting my insecurities. She said I was the one betraying her, that I'd been distant and unfaithful first. That's when I saw her true colors. She's a master liar, a manipulator, and she's been living in her own fantasy world where she's the victim. Honestly, I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disappointment. I'd trusted her with everything, my heart, my money, my life. And she just threw it all away for some guy, for some thrill, for a quick escape from her own problems. The betrayal cut deep, worse than I could have imagined. It's not just about the money or the affair. It's about the fact that she lied to my face every day, made me believe in us, in her love, while she was out there screwing around and stealing from us. I spent that day trying to gather my thoughts, trying to understand what the hell I was supposed to do next. Part of me wanted to fight for the marriage, to believe she'd change, that maybe she was just lost and needed help. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was who she was, a liar, a thief, and a cheat. And I was the fool who didn't see it coming until it was too late. I'm still processing everything. Right now, I feel hurt, angry, and betrayed. I've got lawyers involved, and I'm trying to figure out how to get my money back and protect what's mine. But honestly, the hardest part isn't even the money. It's the realization that the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me, was just playing me all along. That's the part that's going to take time to heal. After I confronted Emily that morning, everything changed in an instant. Her face twisted into this cold, bitchy sneer, like she was enjoying watching me unravel. She denied everything, said I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of things she didn't do. She threw out all the usual lines. You don't trust me, you're just jealous, you're projecting your insecurities. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I had seen the evidence with my own eyes, and her reaction just confirmed she was guilty as hell. She spun her stories fast, saying she'd been stressed, that her affair with Mark was just a mistake, and that the money was a gift she was planning to use for us, for some future they never would have had. She claimed I was the one betraying her first, that I'd been distant and unfaithful. That hurt more than anything. I never cheated on her. I was loyal, committed, and I'd always put her first. But now I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. The worst part was her attitude. She kept acting like she was the victim. She sat there, tears in her eyes, acting all innocent, like I was the one who'd wronged her. Meanwhile, her phone kept buzzing with new messages from Mark, as if she couldn't even bother to hide her guilt anymore. I wanted to punch her, scream at her, but I just stood there numb. I told her I was done. I told her I'd call a lawyer, that she was going to have to answer for everything. She laughed, a cold, bitter laugh, and said, "Go ahead. You think you're so smart, but I've got all the cards now." That's when I realized she was confident. She knew she'd gotten away with it so far, and she wasn't planning to stop. She thought she could just lie her way out of everything like she always did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the confrontation over and over. I felt betrayed, furious, and broken. How could she do this? How could she steal our money, cheat on me, and then have the nerve to act like I was the bad guy? I kept thinking about all the years we'd spent together, all the plans we made, and how she'd just thrown it all away for some bullshit affair. I started digging into the bank statements again, trying to find some way to catch her in a lie. That's when I noticed the transfers had stopped. She was trying to cover her tracks, but I knew she'd left breadcrumbs. I also discovered that she'd been secretly transferring money to an account under her name only, one I didn't even know about. She'd been planning this for a while, I realized. The whole time she'd been lying, cheating, and stealing behind my back. And then the legal papers came in the mail. She filed for half the house, claiming I'd been unfaithful first, that I'd betrayed her. I couldn't believe it. How dare she try to turn the tables? She was the one sneaking around, stealing from us, and now she was trying to take what was ours. The house, our home, everything I'd worked for. I felt sick. It was like she was trying to wipe me out completely, to make me the villain in her twisted story. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I started planning my next move, measured, cold, precise. I contacted a lawyer first thing the next morning. I knew I had to protect what was mine, and I had to find a way to get that stolen money back. I also started digging into her phone, her emails, anything to find proof that she'd been lying all along. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, bitchy, manipulative, and full of false accusations. She told anyone who would listen that I'd been cheating, that I'd been distant, that I'd betrayed her first. She painted herself as the victim, the wronged wife, but I knew better. I knew she was the one who had lied, stolen, and cheated. I'd seen it all with my own eyes. Honestly, I felt like I was in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me, was now nothing more than a criminal in my eyes. She was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. And I was stuck trying to pick up the pieces of what was left of my life while she was out there trying to destroy me, all for her own selfish gain. I kept asking myself, how did it come to this? How did I miss the signs? I always thought I was good at reading people, but she was so good at hiding her true self. I guess I was just too blinded by love to see the truth. Now I'm left with a shattered trust, a broken heart, and a mountain of legal battles ahead. But one thing for sure, I won't let her get away with it, not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, sleepless nights, and a mounting sense of betrayal that kept gnawing at me. I spent hours poring over bank statements, emails, and text messages trying to connect all the dots. Emily's lies were starting to unravel more quickly than I thought possible. I learned that the $250, $0 she stole wasn't just a random act of greed. It was part of a larger plan she'd been working on for months. She'd been secretly squirreling away cash, funneling it into overseas accounts, and even using some of it to fund her affair with Mark. What made it worse was how she spun her stories to friends and family, playing the victim. She told everyone I was the unfaithful one, that I'd been distant, that I'd betrayed her first. I couldn't believe how easily she lied. It was like she had a script for every situation, always painting herself as the wronged wife, never the villain. Meanwhile, I was left trying to pick up the pieces, feeling like I'd been punched repeatedly in the gut. One night, I decided to confront her again. I'd gotten hold of some of her emails and texts, and I was ready to lay everything out. I called her into the living room, told her I knew about the affair, about the money, and about her plans to sue me for half the house. Her face darkened, and she looked at me with this cold, calculating expression. She told me I was crazy, that I was paranoid, that I was making everything up. I could see the flicker of panic in her eyes, but she masked it quickly with that bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. I told her I had enough evidence to tear her entire story apart. I laid out the bank transfers, the emails, the texts, everything. Her eyes widened for a brief moment, then she snapped back into her usual defiant attitude. "You think you're so clever," she spat, "but you have no idea what's really going on. You're just jealous because I've been so much better than you." That was the moment I realized she was fully convinced she was right, that she could lie her way out of anything. It was her way of trying to manipulate me, to keep control, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was calling the lawyer the next day, and that she'd have to answer for her actions. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. We went over everything: her theft, her affair, her plans to sue me. I wanted to know what I could do to protect myself, to get our money back, and to make sure she didn't take everything I'd worked for. The lawyer told me I had a solid case, especially with the evidence I'd gathered. We started the process of freezing some of her accounts and preparing for a legal battle over the house. Meanwhile, Emily was still trying to spin her story. She'd been posting on social media, claiming I'd been unfaithful first, that I'd betrayed her. She even accused me of abuse and emotional neglect, which was completely untrue. It was typical of her to twist things around, to make herself look like the victim. But I knew better. I knew she was the one who had lied, cheated, and stolen. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I'd loved her once, believed in us, and now I was left with nothing but a trail of lies and broken trust. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How could someone I trusted so much do this to me? How could she lie about everything, about her affair, her theft, her supposed innocence? I started to distance myself emotionally. I told myself I couldn't fix this, that I had to protect myself and move forward. I filed for divorce, knowing it was the only way to get some semblance of control back. I also started gathering more proof to hold her accountable. I wasn't going to let her walk away with our house, with the money she'd stolen, or with her lies intact. Throughout all this, I kept asking myself, how did it come to this? How did I miss all the signs? Was I just too blind in love, or was she better at hiding her true self than I ever realized? The hardest part was accepting that the woman I thought I knew, my wife, was actually a criminal and a cheat. It's a bitter pill to swallow, knowing someone you trusted with your entire life could turn out to be your worst nightmare. Now, I'm just trying to pick up the pieces, trying to keep my head above water. The legal battle is far from over, and I know Emily will do everything she can to manipulate the system in her favor. But I'm determined to fight for what's right: my money, my house, my dignity. I've learned a hard lesson about trust, about how appearances can be deceiving, and about how some people are just good at lying their way through life. I don't know how this story ends yet, but I do know one thing: I'll never let her get away with it. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal chaos and emotional exhaustion. I kept telling myself I had to stay strong, but honestly, every day felt like a new punch to the gut. Emily, of course, kept up her act, playing the victim, crying fake tears and spinning her web of lies. She, tell friends she was desperate, that I'd cheated on her first, that she was just trying to survive somehow. Meanwhile, her actions told a different story. I had proof of her affair with Mark, and I had the bank statements showing her siphoning off our savings. One thing that struck me was how she kept insisting she loved me, that she was doing all this for us, even as she was sneaking around and stealing money. She claimed that her affair was just a mistake, that Mark was just a distraction, and that she'd stop if I just understood. Yeah, right. I knew better. I'd seen her with Mark enough times to know it wasn't just a fling. It was something serious to her, and I was just some afterthought. But what pissed me off the most was how she tried to turn the tables at the legal hearings. She argued she deserved half the house because I supposedly betrayed her first by being distant or emotionally unavailable. That woman has a gift for twisting every truth into a lie. She sat there, arguing with a straight face, claiming I'd been unfaithful, that I'd lied about my whereabouts, that I'd been hiding something. Meanwhile, I had all the receipts, texts, emails, bank transfers that proved she was the one cheating and stealing. I remember the day I brought in the evidence: hard copies of her bank transfers, screenshots of her messages with Mark, the email trail where she was planning her escape. The judge looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, probably thinking, this guy been played. But once the evidence was laid out, it was clear who was lying and who was telling the truth. Throughout all this, Emily's bitchy attitude only intensified. She'd glare at me in court, sneer when I told the truth, and try to undermine my credibility. She accused me of being jealous, possessive, or abusive, trying to paint herself as the innocent victim. But her lies couldn't hold up forever. The truth was finally catching up with her. I also learned she'd been secretly transferring our money into accounts under her name only, accounts I didn't even know existed. She'd been planning this for a long time, maybe even before I discovered her affair. It was like she had a whole secret life, one I was completely blind to. The betrayal cut deep. All those nights I stayed up worrying about her, loving her, trusting her. She was out there screwing around and stealing from us. At one point, I considered just walking away, giving up on everything. But I realized that wasn't an option. Not after everything she'd done. I owed it to myself to fight for what was rightfully mine. I filed for divorce, and I was determined to get our house, the money she'd stolen, and her out of my life for good. I also started thinking about how to rebuild after this. I knew I'd need therapy, support from friends, and probably a new start somewhere far away from all this chaos. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of her lies. I had to find a way to move on, even if it hurt like hell. The most shocking part was how she kept lying even when everything was falling apart. She'd deny the affair, deny the theft, deny everything, but her own actions proved otherwise. She was a master manipulator, and I'd been her target. It was hard to accept that someone I'd loved and trusted could be so completely different behind closed doors. Now, I'm sitting here, reflecting on everything I've learned. Trust is fragile, and some people will do anything to get what they want: money, power, or just the thrill of betrayal. I've realized I can't fix her, and I shouldn't try. All I can do now is protect myself, gather all the evidence I need, and prepare for the long fight ahead. I hope that whatever comes next, I can finally start to rebuild some sense of peace and trust in myself again. The legal process dragged on longer than I expected, and honestly, it drained me more than I thought possible. Every day was a new battle: papers to file, depositions to give, witnesses to prepare. Emily, of course, played her part perfectly, acting fragile one minute, bitchy the next. She'd cry in court, claiming she was the victim of a controlling husband, even as I presented irrefutable evidence of her affair and theft. Her lawyers tried to spin her story, but the truth was glaring. She'd lied, cheated, and stolen from us, and she was trying to cover her tracks. One of the biggest shocks was discovering how deep her deception went. She'd been secretly transferring our savings into accounts she controlled alone, accounts I didn't even know existed until I started digging. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I found emails where she discussed her plans to start fresh, to leave everything behind, and even one where she mentioned she'd screwed everything up, but was going to get what she wanted. It was like I was living in some twisted crime drama, only it was real and I was the one getting hurt. The court hearings revealed even more. Emily tried to argue that she deserved half the house because I'd been unfaithful first, which was a joke. I had the proof she'd been cheating with Mark, and I had the bank statements showing her stealing our money. The judge saw through her act quickly. I felt a tiny flicker of relief when the judge ordered her to return a significant portion of the stolen funds, but I knew the battle wasn't over yet. She was still fighting to keep the house, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Meanwhile, she kept up her manipulative ways. She'd call me crazy, accuse me of gaslighting, and claim I was trying to control her. She even tried to turn our friends and family against me, painting herself as the innocent victim. It was exhausting. I felt like I was fighting a war on multiple fronts, legal, emotional, and social. But I refused to back down, every day. I woke up feeling more betrayed, more angry, but also more determined. I knew I had to stay focused. I hired a private investigator to track down the last of her hidden accounts and to gather more evidence of her affair and theft. I also started planning for the future, thinking about not just winning in court, but rebuilding my life afterward. I realized I'd been so caught up in trying to save our marriage that I'd ignored my own needs. One night, I finally broke down and called a therapist. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me process all these feelings: anger, sadness, disbelief. The therapist told me it was normal to feel overwhelmed, but to remember that I was not responsible for her actions. That was a hard pill to swallow, but I knew she was right. I couldn't fix her, and I couldn't undo what she'd done, but I could control how I responded. As I prepared for the final court dates, I started to realize something. I wasn't just fighting for the money or the house. I was fighting for my dignity, my sanity, and my future. Emily's lies and betrayal had shattered a lot of what I believed about us, but I refused to let her win completely. I'd come out of this stronger, even if it didn't feel like it right now. Looking back, I see how naive I was to trust her completely. I see how I ignored the signs, how I convinced myself things were fine when they weren't. But I also see how resilient I've become. I learned that some people are just masters of deception, and you can't fix a broken person. You can only protect yourself from their destruction. I'm still healing, still fighting, but I know I'll come out the other side. And one thing is certain: I'll never let someone like Emily do this to me again. Not without a fight. The final court date was a whirlwind. After months of legal battles, evidence gathering, and endless nights of doubt and anger, it all came down to that one day. I sat in the courtroom, feeling a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion, knowing I had done everything I could to prove my case. Emily sat across from me, her bitchy smirk gone, replaced by a look of defiance, like she still thought she could manipulate her way out of everything. But the evidence was solid. Her lies had been exposed, her theft laid bare. When the judge finally spoke, the verdict was clear. Emily was ordered to return the stolen money, and the court awarded me full ownership of the house. Her attempt to sue me for half the property was dismissed. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders, like I finally had some justice, some closure. It wasn't easy and it wasn't perfect, but I knew I had fought for what was rightfully mine. In the days that followed, I started to rebuild. I sold the house, cut all ties with Emily, and moved into a new place far away from the chaos. I cut off everyone who had supported her lies. No more social media drama, no more pointless arguments. I focused on myself. Therapy helped me process the betrayal and the pain, and I slowly regained my sense of trust, though it's forever changed. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from all this. Trust is fragile, and some people are better at lying than you are at seeing through them. I was blinded by love, but I refused to be blind. Again, I learned that standing up for myself, no matter how hard it gets, is the only way to survive. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again. Emily's gone now. She's probably trying to build a new life, maybe with someone else, maybe still scheming. But I don't care. What matters is that I've taken control of my life again. I've learned to be cautious, to watch for signs, and most importantly, to value myself. I don't regret the pain I went through because it made me stronger, wiser. So here's what I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through similar hell. Trust your instincts, document everything, and don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. The truth will come out eventually. And no matter how betrayed you feel, remember, you're stronger than you think. You can survive this, and you can come out on the other side better than ever. Just keep fighting for yourself.